Welcome to the Inspire Hearts Heart of the Gala podcast. And we're Jerry's first podcast. So everybody say, who are you?
My very first podcast.
Who are you? What do you do?
Okay, my name is Jerry Diaz. And I started my own company called Geronimo Consulting almost 4 years ago after a 25-year career in nonprofit. And as they say, I'm living my best life, loving it. The way I used to describe it is instead of working for one organization, which is wonderful and lovely,
right?
As a consultant, you can work with dozens and dozens of nonprofits on different things. Like every consultant have what they call specialties, right?
Yes.
Which are really, really good at, right? What, people will say, you know more than a lot of other people.
You do.
And you have an expertise, and we would love for you to help us.
Okay, so then I guess, Jerry, what's your expertise? Like, how do you love helping nonprofits?
Oh my goodness. So when I started Geronimo Consulting, I really had to put pen to paper, right? To really think about wow, what do I really feel passionate about? What can I really help? So I have 4 areas of expertise I help with. The first one is strategic planning. And I've gone through training to do strategic planning.
Okay.
And strategic planning is just basically the roadmap for an organization, right?
Like we're here, we want to get here.
Yeah. What is it going to look like in 12, 24, 36, 72 months?
Wonderful.
Right. It's the roadmap that allows for you to tell everybody, internally, externally, shareholders, to say, here's where we are and here's where we're headed and here's why you should be a part of this.
So you're saying people need to prepare for the success or plan for the success and set out the roadmap and be like, we're not just going to throw it against the wall and see if it sticks. We're actually going to do these things and then building the benchmarks for them.
Yes.
Okay. Good. I like that.
But most mature organizations, they need strategic plans, right? So anyway, I do strategic planning.
That's one.
The other one is I do board governance, and I have a certificate from Board Source in governance.
Good.
Board Source, I describe it as the North American leader in nonprofit good practices, leading practices.
Wonderful.
All of that. So
we're going to talk about more about that. Good.
Okay.
Good. Putting that feather in your hat.
Board governance. The next one is like the big one. It's fund development. And I describe it as both wide and deep. And so I do a lot of stuff around fund development. I think that's probably what I'm best known locally for. Okay. Because I spent the last 7 years doing fund development and marketing before I started Geronimo Consulting. And the last one is staffing, because in a prior career, I worked at an organization. I was there for 15 years. And I did a ton of hiring and training and, all of those things related to people. So I do staffing. And then in that 4th column, I added kind of like strategic thought partnering / coaching
/ you got an idea, let's come up with ideas and we'll figure out how to do it.
A little bit of that. Yes, Bobby. But part of it was I got a lot of requests for wow, you have been around the block, you know things. I would love to pick your brain. I would love to talk about ideas. And so I have done some of that as well. But I only did that because people kept asking me for it, which I thought, one, was fantastic. And two, I probably should add this to the arsenal.
Thought leader.
Yeah, so those are the 4. And then the other one that I'm just now starting to dip my toe into is interim executive placement.
Okay. So interim executive director, development director, wherever.
Yeah. So I've been trained in that, and I've actually have done some of that in my past, but it's not one of the 4 that I originally thought of, but I'm starting to look more and more that I should probably do that. There's a huge need for that.
With the amount of turnover that there is in the nonprofit world, the executive director steps away from the organization. You got to fill that role quick. And understanding where the organization's at. So you have to come in. As consultants, we always say, meet them where they're at. Where's the organization at? We're here. And specifically, what do they need? What do they need from an interim? Is it to right the ship? Is it to do an assessment? Is it to help with the process? Meeting with donors, hiring staff, managing and leading the staff. It really depends. It's like all the things.
Yeah.
So you have all the hats.
It really is. Some organizations say we're fully staffed. We don't worry about that piece, but we do need help with, board management or some. So it's this is what I love about consulting. It's so dynamic.
It is.
And you have to be so flexible.
It is.
And you meet so many people, not just you meet funders and other consultants and board members and staff. It really is kind of, I always describe it as we're part of that ecosystem. We think about a Venn diagram, right?
Yep.
Where they all kind of some things intersect, right?
Yep.
So consultants are part of that ecosystem for nonprofits.
I like to think of us as the glue for that. Kind of gets it all to stick together.
Yeah.
And work together sometimes too.
Sure.
Because so in the gala world, in the event world, we're always preaching, you've got to prepare, you've got to plan for that success. It's the, 5 Ps, piss poor, performance, prevents proper, something like that. Yeah. And there's no plan going into it. And a lot of times, okay, maybe there is a plan. We're going to do this with the gala, but then the rest of the organization doesn't know what's going on with the gala, or the people that are in charge of the gala don't know what the results or the impact of what that event is on major gifts officers, on this staff, right? Like, is burning them out crazy. It could be doing that. Also other fund development, like you have the end of year gifts that come from first time donors that are there. You've got all the, the corporate sponsorship relationships that are there. And like you said, when that Venn diagram comes together and all of the components of a nonprofit business, like a lot of them can succeed from that.
And Bobby, you know what I'm reminded of as we're talking about this, you're a consultant.
I am. I do.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, so you started off, working the magic, having the gift of gab, being able to memorize lots of information, whether it's a paddle raise or an auction, live auction, silent auction, highlighting items, or even something called a super silent auction, right? You've done
we do
all
that
of those.
too. Yeah.
But one of the things that I've seen you do as you continue to evolve and pivot is talking to nonprofits and going, hey, I am also a partner. I'm also invested in your mission. I'm also invested in this. So let's talk about your event.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Or events. And because I have a unique view.
Yes, and that's why you're here. I want this view.
Yeah.
They want this view.
To say, oh my gosh, I've done my services coast to coast.
Right. Yep.
Right.
And
I've seen multiple markets. I've seen big events, small events. I've seen, them that are themed, those that are black tie, and to say, and based on all of that experience, when I see, so we have a conversation and let me look at your data and let me look at all this stuff. And then we'll have a conversation. Right. Like, how do we maximize what's there, not only for that, before that night, but that night. And then, as you mentioned, like, who do we need to talk to? Who's in the room?
Yes.
Do you need to say, hey, we have 1,000 people, but we only raise X? You're like, hey, well, you should be raising more than that.
Yeah, way more than that. 3X.
Yeah. So like, so let's talk about that. Like, something's going on, right?
Yeah.
And like, are you doing the right things? Are the right people being invited?
Exactly. Are they being followed up with effectively? All of that.
Or do you have the right, based on the crowd, do you actually even have the right auction items?
Auction, or even is an auction relevant?
Yeah.
There's those conversations. And I think for both of us as consultants, like, we look at kind of those dark holes in, kind of in the picture. And we're kind of like, wait, we got to fill this in a little bit, or we got to make this a little bit brighter here, make this a little bit stronger. And then over here, or if we can affect this here, we know that these different, silos or avenues are going to be able to be built too. And that's a big thing that I'm really looking at this year in regards to like events and auctions and galas and all the things, is I really want to like work with the organization and track from the day of the event. Okay, so then there's the however much money is raised is X, and then over that year, let's look at the kind of that okay, we raised Y last year, and then what's Z? Like, what's the difference? Did it increase? Did it go down? What was it? And I know that the event does not be all end all, and there's a lot of other things that are built within it, but I'd like to see what that possible effect could be. I mean, could you think that maximizing that event could affect the bottom line at the end of the year?
Oh, for sure. And events are wonderful, but they're only one part of the formula for the success, right? So even if you talk about, let's just break this down, just, as a consultant, right? You go in and meet with somebody and they have an event and you kind of go, how much time is it taking? What's the cost? Right. We do know that the galas are the most expensive. It's anywhere between 32 and 38%. Yep. If you're spending
to get
more,
$1.
If you're spending more than that, you have some issues. So then you kind of go, well, how do we do the analysis? You're like, okay, let's talk about some simple formulas here, right? One is, the expenses.
Mm-hmm. This is how much it cost.
One is how much you're getting per person.
Yeah. Like what the revenue is.
Yes. Okay. Well, even beyond that, if you're doing a cash call,
yes,
right? Are you doing the right levels? Are you having do you need a video? Do you need a person there?
Those things.
Do you need a board member to do the thing? That could increase it.
Absolutely.
Right? So then you look at silent auction. Right? Or do you want to do a wine pool? Right? So if you look at all of those, when you break it down, and you kind of go, you know what? If we only did half the auction, but we did a wine pool, and if we did something else, this would, one, shake it up, and two, we'd raise more money, and we wouldn't use as much energy to do it.
There you go.
Right? So having those kind of like diagnostic tools, right?
Yeah.
But not everybody has those, right? So this is why they go to people like you or me. Is to kind of
they make it up as they go along.
I have done a ton of special events, right?
I know you have, and that's where we met.
Yes.
We met. You know what? You know what a funny story is?
Yeah.
We never actually worked together.
No, we didn't.
We never did. So where I met Jerry, I was invited. I'm not sure if we're mentioning the particular nonprofit. However, a great nonprofit helping kids and families. And I came for a tour. It was a beautiful tour. It was a beautiful space, wonderful organization, nationwide organization. And you showed me around and whatnot. And I was like, okay, well, hey, let's look at this. And then sent a proposal and whatnot. Mine wasn't selected. It's okay. Maybe you can tell me why.
It happens. It happens.
Yeah. But ever since then, we've been like friends in this. We've been a part of the Association of Fundraising Professionals.
Yes,
we see each other at events all the time. I see you at galas with your wonderful husband, John, who is my masseuse, who's absolutely the best in the world.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, he's awesome. And that's kind of why I'm here. We're double dipping today, folks. I get to extract some knowledge from Jerry and then get a massage later. So life's good.
But we've known it. And it's funny how you meet people and then you circle back around and you see them in a different way or a different light, or like, oh, we were board members or you were a donor, and then suddenly, we're friends. Right? Or we collab together, right?
Or even we follow each other's adventures on Instagram.
Yeah, social media.
Yeah, just out there in the world. And it's like, I'm really interested in what you're doing and kind of like your travels and your world and, how you're helping nonprofits and whatnot. And you guys are always commenting on my stuff, which I love. Thank you. Keep going. Hit the like buttons. But it is neat to then have like that relationship, and now to be here in the home of Geronimo Consulting right here, where like all kind of the magic happens.
Yeah. I think that sometimes people don't understand is how, like, when I became a consultant, I didn't realize there's a whole other world of just consultants.
Right. Yeah.
Of like, you get to know other consultants and you start working and you start doing cohorts, and you start like, like a lot of my business comes from other consultants.
Right.
It comes from like, oh my God, one of your expertise is fund development, and it's not mine. Right. Would you mind, can I put you on my scope of work, or can I refer you? Right. I mean,
I love that collaboration of consultants. I mean, we're not really in competition because there's so many nonprofits that are out there. I mean, yes, there's other fund development experts like yourself, but how many nonprofits need fund development help?
A ton.
1.5 million. They all need help.
Yeah, I talked to a local funder when I first started my consulting firm, and I go, "What's the number one request you get?" And he goes, "Hands down, fund development. Nonprofits need the most help with that."
Okay, here it is. Listen, nonprofits, open those ears. Fund development, right here. Jerry, call him.
And being able to, but I definitely come from that space, and I think a lot of other consultants, or I can't speak on behalf of other consultants, is I just come from the space of abundance.
Exactly.
Right?
More than enough for everyone.
I am not in competition with anybody else. The nonprofit should always go with who is going to be the best fit for them. Yep. And sometimes the best fit is sometimes even personality.
Yeah, personality is a huge one. Work ethic is another. I would say like work flexibility. I mean, the ability to schedule, because I know there's some consultants that are ridiculously busy. You can't even get on their calendar. Yeah. But then for me, like a group will come to me and be like, hey, we can't find anything on your calendar in the near future. I'm like, you know what? And I'm sure you do this too. It's like, I'll make it happen. We'll fit it in. We'll make it happen. You're a priority. We want to make sure that we serve you. And
I think the other thing that works really well for a lot of consultants is doing that discovery call.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. Is like, you get introduced, or a text, or somebody puts you on a thread in a LinkedIn.
Yep.
And then you say, okay, let's
have
chat,
a conversation.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you just chat and just say, tell me everything.
Tell me.
I said,
yeah, I want to hear it.
Yeah, like tell me everything. I'm not going to tell anybody. I'll take some notes.
Yep.
And because sometimes what people think they want isn't really what they need.
Really?
And after you really chat with them, they're like, oh my God, I never thought of it that way.
Right.
And just us having this conversation is making me look at this in a different way. And then part of it is they want to talk to somebody who speaks the same language, who understands, who has experience.
Someone that's been in the trenches before. Yeah.
And you see this a lot with executive directors in particular, where they're like, oh my God, sometimes this job, I love it, but it feels a little lonely. I want to be able to talk to somebody who actually knows what I'm talking about.
And sometimes it's even just that friendship.
Yeah.
It's having the shoulder to cry on, or it's having the, oh my gosh, I'm having the day. We've all had those days, and it happens. And you know, being a fundraising consultant is very lonely. Like for you and me to be able to hang out like this and kind of commiserate, and
it's kind of a nice treat, actually.
It is a nice treat because we both understand that world, but to have that and somebody to kind of lean on, and someone to understand the kind of those intricacies or the jokes, even it's like, oh yay, rubber chicken again for dinner.
Yeah, you speak the same language, right?
Yep.
You just kind of go, I understand what you're going through because I have been there and done that.
Yes.
I have those lived life experiences.
Yep.
And this is where when you start vetting consultants, you're like, oh my gosh, you've sat in my chair, you've done this, you've gone through all these things,
walked in my shoes,
and your experience really resonates with what I think we need. Yep. And so you do something after that discovery call. You do what we call in the industry a scope of work.
Yep.
What do you agree upon?
Right.
It typically includes like the overview, the pieces, the deliverables, the time frame, what the investment is going to be. Right. Those are the big pieces. Yeah. And then you sign it and you start getting to work.
Right on.
I mean, which
it's
I
really
love.
That easy.
Yeah, I think it can be.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that there are necessarily. There might be books out there on how to become a consultant. I'm sure there are.
Oh, there is, yeah.
But, I think this is coming back to getting to know other consultants.
Yes.
Because then they kind of go, oh, here's what I do. Here's what I do. One of the things I always talk to other consultants about now is they're trying to figure out pricing.
Yes.
How do I figure it? Because it's kind of your own intellectual property.
It is.
Right? So it's not like you're selling a can of soup.
Yep.
What's the cost for the can of soup? Yep. And everybody brings their own level of expertise. If you're a newer consultant, you maybe not charge as much.
Right.
If you're a more seasoned consultant, or you have a lot of expertise, or you have good credentialing, it's all of these factors that go everywhere. In there.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes, that works out really well for the nonprofit, because as they go and talk to somebody, they kind of go, this is what we need. We need somebody to help us start an individual donor campaign, or
we need that little scissors on the Swiss Army knife. We don't need the whole Swiss Army knife, but those little scissors is all we need right now.
And I think the other thing that's interesting about consulting is repeat clients.
Yes.
Is they come back and they say, hey, we talked about, you helped us, and now we're ready to take the next phase. Or, you left us in a great place, and it changed our trajectory.
Want to go a little bit further.
And now we're coming back.
Nice.
Now we're coming back.
Nice.
Right? And sometimes it's even just doing a fund development, assessment or audit.
Yeah.
Right? What's working,
something
what's
as simple
not.
as that call,
what that looks like, donor segmentation, all those things. And I see some wonderful nonprofits doing amazing work, but they don't have the money, the resource, they don't have the fuel, right?
I talk about the fuel all the time. They don't have enough fuel in the tank to get them all the way to the end of the trip, or where their destination or where they're going. And the fuel is those dollars. They got to get the money in there. And
I also think that I don't know if you're familiar with Nonprofit Life Cycles. It's the work of Dr. Susan Kenny Stevens. She does amazing work. After a 30-year career, she wrote a book.
Okay. And
it talks about, she uses an analogy of a table, and each of the 4 table legs represents a different piece of the nonprofit.
Yep.
The one is people and staff, one is board, one is the fuel, fund development.
Yep.
The 4th table leg is infrastructure.
Okay.
And the stronger the table leg supports the tabletop, which is programs. And sits on top of programs is mission.
Mission, right there.
Right on top. But being able to use that as the lens for the work is really powerful to say.
It is.
How strong are your legs.
Right, because if you got a leg shorter than the other one, it's gonna
or thin,
right? It's gonna fall. It's gonna break.
They talk about it on the book, the wobble.
The wobble. Ooh, I like that.
Which is really really great. But I use nonprofit life cycles for a lot of my work.
Okay,
it's really powerful. It's diagnostic in purpose.
Yeah.
It's not determinative, so it doesn't necessarily determine where you're headed.
Okay.
It just says, right now and today, if this was a piece of cake, we could cut the cake and look at the layers. Right? It doesn't determine future cakes.
Yeah.
But right now,
this is what it tastes like.
And say, hey, and based on what we're seeing, here's some areas of improvement.
Okay.
Right.
So that's why Aaron and I have the podcast here, is looking at those areas of improvement and opportunities for success is what I like to call them. So events, there's lots of opportunities there. I mean, we could go down the auction rabbit hole, we could go down the paddle raise rabbit hole, we could go about the technology rabbit hole. You have to get to the data from your donors, their name, their phone number, and their email address, so you can say thank you, right? Like, that's a whole nother conversation. We're not going to talk about that. Opportunities for success with the board. That's what I want to talk about.
Oh, sure.
Because, again, when I look at, and I take that temperature of the nonprofit and their event, and we look at it, and it's like we start checking up all the boxes. And, usually one of the last bigger boxes that I ask about is like, how is your board participation within your event? And more times than not, they're like, oh, the board, they just show up and buy a table. That's it. Or they don't even come. Or maybe they're there and they're raising paddles and they're, getting everybody excited and all that kind of stuff. And then within that, what I'm identifying is the events that have the biggest and the strongest board participation within the event, the more successful the event is.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. The biggest events that I've seen, like, the board is on board. So let's talk about how a board can assist the fundraising, or even just to assist the whole experience at an event. Like, what could a board member do?
Oh my goodness, there's a lot to unpack there. One, they could serve on the committee.
Okay, so like on the gala committee and help with the actual organizing.
They can get their friends to come to the gala committee.
Yes.
They can help identify sponsors beyond just the table.
Right.
Or get their companies to do that.
That's great. Right? Yeah.
And to say, hey, we're going to be the lead sponsor, and they can certainly do that. And I think one of the things that really would make it very powerful difference is, if they're going to buy a table or two, which is wonderful, and you're very grateful for that.
Love that.
The key is, who are you inviting?
Who's in the seat?
Who's in the seat, right?
So we want, the secretary and the guy in the mailroom and the one that picks up the dog stuff.
No.
Okay. Who's that? And not to say that those are
lovely people.
Those are lovely people, and they fill jobs that need to be done. Absolutely need to be done. However, might not be in the place ready yet to raise the paddle at a level. Yeah. So now, who's that ideal guest?
So you want to invite your friends and family, your coworkers, but they have the ability to be inspired and to make an investment, right? So you say, hey, I'm buying this table. It's a wonderful event. I'm on their board. They do all this work. Come as our guest.
Right.
But we will ask you to make an investment.
Okay.
Right? Whether it's through the silent auction or the paddle raise or live auction or whatever that looks like.
However it
right?
is, yeah.
And say, and that completely changes the character of your event. It elevates your event.
Oh, yes.
And if you do a really, really first-rate job, people will walk away going, whoa, this was amazing. Please invite me back next year.
That's it.
And then they kind of go, you know what? I'm going to get my own table next year. Like, I'm going to buy my own table because I'm going to invite some of our other friends. Right. So then this becomes this catalyst. It becomes like this, like the Midas touch.
Yep.
Right. Then you kind of go, oh, my goodness, that's great. And you want to have people inspired at different levels. Right.
Yes.
If you're going to depend in, and this is where you have to be calculated. Like, where do you start? Is it in the room? And this is where you have to have the conversations with the staff. Like, are we at an event where the highest ask we're going to do is 5,000 or is it going to be 50,000?
Right.
Or even more. Like, and they kind of go, we know our donors well enough. We know who's going to be in the room.
Yeah.
And we think it's there. And we always say, ask.
Yeah. Let's have a conversation.
Yeah. Talk. Like, and nobody raises their hand, then you just keep moving on.
That's right.
And people like you, Bobby, are so wonderful to say, we had to ask.
We got to ask.
Thank you so much.
That's right.
If you feel inspired later, please come back.
Please.
And I've actually been at events where we've gotten really big gifts, but they didn't want to raise their hand.
Oh, okay. This is a big topic that I hear about. And as we're making our ask as well, is like, friends, if there's a level that we didn't ask you or a level that, you would like to give at anonymously, the opportunity's there. And so let's talk about these gifts that they don't want to raise the paddle. Like you're in this world. Yeah. I'm in this world where I'm like, this happens? Tell me more.
It does happen. Sometimes people will say, hey, by the way, I'm going to be making this gift at this level. And you hear about it in advance.
Right.
So if you're going to say it's going to be $10,000, we can come to you, Bobby, and say, we know there is at least 2 gifts at $10,000. So we're going to start at 10.
Okay. So we know that that's happening and they're not being recognized.
Yeah. And some people want to be recognized and they want their, saying, hey, we say, can we use your name? They're like, oh, of course. Yeah. This is where you kind of sometimes get like challenger leadership gifts.
Yes.
Right. To say, hey, somebody has agreed and here's their name and it's Mr. and Mrs. or whoever it is.
Or XYZ Corporation.
And they're going to match every gift at this level up to and inspire. So somebody kind of go, you mean my $1,000 now is $2,000 and there's a cap, but so there's all of these nuances just in special events, but some of these things also can be applied to golf tournaments,
right?
Sometimes even walks, bowlathons, you can sponsor lanes, this is why when you talk about fund development, at the beginning of our podcast, I said fund development is both deep and wide. And this is why special events in itself is a specialty just into itself.
And it's like, it can be like this big or it can be this big, but then it is a specialty within itself, and it's very niche when it does come to the fund development. And then I guess the residuals that come from that, like they kind of spill into everything else. Like what are some of the other kind of silos that the event can spill into when it comes to in regards to fund development?
Well, you clearly want to run the analytics after the event, not just like gross and expenses and net, but who was in the room that wasn't in the room last year.
That's right? Good. Okay.
And you do the long, like, this person's been coming to the event for 5 years, and every year they continue to raise how much money they give us in the cash call. Let's have a conversation.
Right.
And they were invited by a board member. So let's loop in the board member, coming back full circle to that conversation about what board members can do. Right. And we started talking about like who's at the table. But board members, one of the strategies I used years ago is I asked board members, we assigned them tables, and during the dinner break, we asked them, and we gave them a very specific name.
Okay.
Please go to table 27, ask for so-and-so. Say, I'm a board member and I want to just thank you for coming.
Nice.
And it was just like, that has a huge lift.
Huge.
Right? We've had some board members greet people when they come in.
Yes,
love to the gala, which is really kind of nice. We, of course, want to recognize them for their board service during the event.
I love getting them to stand up, because then when we get into the paddle raise, now I know all of the friends that hopefully are going to be raising their paddle.
Sure. Yeah.
I didn't get that. I mean, tell me now, is that like a commonplace that you as a consultant or even as an executive director or development director, you could make the request of the board that we want everybody to give?
Well, that goes into a whole other conversation about give or get. Right?
Okay. So let's talk about it. Yeah.
So part of the give or get, like the give or get essentially is there is a requirement or, saying, hey, if you want to be on this board, we're respectfully asking for you to contribute X dollar amount, right? Depending on the size of the organization, the size of the board, all of that.
It could be 3 figures. It could be 5 figures.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you figure out where it's at. They're like, oh, I'm going to sponsor the gala, and I'm going to be the sponsor for the walk, and that's what my company is going to do, and I am going to give you a personal gift of.
Okay.
Right? So this is where when I talk to boards, I said, I would like every board member to make a personal contribution.
Nice.
Right?
Yes.
If your company wants to contribute and, they've got the ability to do that, and when you get vetted to the board, they say, my company is totally behind me. I have a budget. That's wonderful.
Yes.
But nothing speaks, what speaks even better than that is you saying you have a personal financial investment. And it doesn't, the dollar amount, we always say, make a meaningful gift, whatever you think it is, right?
Right.
So coming full circle about like board members' involvement with gala, post-gala, right?
All right. I was like reading my mind.
Who's going to be thanking people? You look at trends, say, you brought a friend we had never seen before.
Yes.
And they made a gift of XXX. Can you tell me a little bit more about them?
Yeah.
They're like there was a reason I invited them, and something happened in their life, and like, can we chat with them? Like, yes, of course. That's why I brought him.
Yeah. So the board now is they're again on board with the fundraising strategy because they know you're trying to, identify more friends and bring them into the community.
But really, Bobby, what we're talking about, if you kind of put a little title over it, this is all comes under that culture of philanthropy. Right?
Okay.
You have good culture. Culture of philanthropy is we're all in it together.
Yep.
We are all united. It's a feeling. It's a vibe. It looks and feels different for every organization, but it is like copacetic.
Yeah.
Right. Like let's go. We're
in this.
all, and this goes at nonprofit, but we're talking specifically about a culture of philanthropy among board members, right?
Yep. Well, and then that trickles down so far. I mean, and I think that the board are the leaders or can be the leaders in that culture and be good role models. And look, we're the board and we're, this is our personal responsibility to make sure this organization is succeeding at this time. We want to help fill that fuel tank up. And then how that kind of trickles down through the leadership that's in there, the staff that's there, but then also trickles down into the volunteers, and then all of that trickles into the event, and then that trickles to the guests, and then the donors, and and all of that. And then when that culture is ripe, or that culture it has a strong fundraising culture, like that's where you see the galas that are raising the 2.5, the 7.2, the 10.8 million, whatever that is. It's because that's what happens at the gala. That's the culture. This is what we do.
And you want to make sure the gala is always mission driven. You want to make sure there's wonderful storytelling at multiple levels.
Yes.
But I will tell you, there is one thing that I think nonprofits really struggle with still.
Okay.
Time management.
Time management.
So they say the gala's only going to, like, you'll say the doors open.
6 o'clock.
And then, we're going to be going to the ballroom at 7 or 7:30, and we're supposed to be done at 9.
Right.
And there's like a script or a timeline.
Yep.
But it's that production of it, making sure you're on time, making sure people don't speak too long. So one of the things, some of the tips that I've been seeing some nonprofits do is, instead of asking the event committee to stand to be recognized, we create a special slide just for them.
Oh, cool.
Either with their names or pictures.
Right.
And then the MC or whoever thanks them, puts it into the script.
Yep. Thank you, hosting committee.
And
Great job.
I've also seen this done with boards as well, right? Yeah. So instead of saying like, turn up the lights, that takes...
Yep, there's seconds there.
There's seconds there. They get up, and then you're asked to, like, you can just say,
Thank you.
And the other thing that I've seen done around this, Bobby, as well, is elected officials.
Oh.
Is, they're coming, you put them on a slide.
Yeah.
Right. And then we're like, and we have some really wonderful friends that are elected officials. They're in the crowd. You can see their names on the screen, or we will tell you who they are. Like,
and then we don't need the big pomp and circumstance of them standing up and them waving and all of the things. Because, seconds are valuable within the event.
Yeah. And even like, do you preset salads?
Right.
Or do you preset desserts?
Right.
I mean, it's all of those things. We do know that in between services, it's about 20 minutes.
Yeah, 20 to 30 minutes, depending,
And 20 minutes is tight. So you kind of go, where in the script are we going to do this? So this is all that whole management of the event.
Yes, management of the production, of the timeline.
And this allows the auctioneer a few more minutes.
Yes.
A few more, like, hey, folks, this auction may let it breathe. This is a really hot item. Yeah. Right? We're going to go back and forth.
There's lots of paddles in the air. And, we don't want to speed that up more than we have to.
And then, or even you have like a bidding war. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes, one of the big things that has been really popular in the last 10 years that's come about is the 2 of them.
The secret double. Yes.
The secret double, right? So then you have to allow time for that.
Yep,
so this is all of the things on the development side that you work through. Yep. And this is why when you come to events, you're like, oh my God, this was lovely and I feel so great.
Yeah.
I feel inspired. But if you don't do it right,
what can happen?
People leave.
They leave. They're just like,
they just leave.
peace out.
Yeah. I mean, you'll literally see at an events that go long, you'll see empty tables.
Yeah. It happens.
And it does happen, but it doesn't have to happen.
It doesn't have. You're right. It doesn't have to happen, and you can plan again for that success.
Which is why sometimes you need the help of you,
of a professional, of you,
to say, let's talk about this.
Let's talk about this,
right? And there's all those little nuances that go with that, right?
Yep.
So I think that there's a place for everybody in helping nonprofits, because at the end of the day, our job is to assist the nonprofit to make sure that they are well-oiled, working really well, validating the things that they're doing amazing, and there's a lot of those. And say, but here's some areas of opportunity. Right? And if we do these and do our work together, then guess what? We are going to be able to provide more backpacks or dental services or housing, food.
Or save little puppies.
Save little puppies.
Give them forever homes.
Yeah, forever homes, or universities or symphonies.
Right.
This is the thing about the third sector, the nonprofit, is we not only protect some of the most vulnerable, but we elevate ourselves as society through arts.
Oh, yes.
Right?
I love that.
So it is the spectrum of celebration, but also as a society, we have a responsibility. So we're going to ask people to make the investment through a nonprofit.
Oh my gosh.
To make this happen.
God, that was so good. Well,
Bobby, thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Future Bobby, edit that into an Instagram reel. That was great. I love that. Like you said, the cross pollination of the celebration of the gala, but then the end of the day, it comes down to that impact. It's like what, like we're dropping the pebble in the pond to make the ripples. Like, how big do you want that pebble to be?
Sure.
Like, how big are the ripples you want to make?
And when you imagine a world, what do you want that? This is why in nonprofits we have that vision statement. We see a world where no child goes to bed hungry, right?
Yes.
The mission is we provide after school and weekend meals, right?
Okay,
so it's that whole aspirational, which is the vision. And then the mission really talks about what you do.
Yes.
Right. So maybe on a future podcast, we can talk about collaborations between nonprofits and what they're doing. Right?
Oh my gosh.
We could talk about some of those examples and what that looks like.
Totally. That is. I think that's a whole nother conversation.
Yes, I think so
for
too.
Sure. Future Bobby, your camera just died, by the way. Don't worry about it. Okay, I'm going to change the battery. How about this? You chat. I'll change the battery. It'll take 2 seconds. But so Jerry, now post-event, now we're focused on the board. Then you talked a little bit, like you kind of glazed over it on that thank you process. Like what could a board do to enhance the fundraising from an event after the event by being involved in the thank you process?
Oh gosh. So let's talk about some ideas. Okay. Right. So one of the ideas that I've seen is an automatic email going out like literally the next day. So just thank you for coming. Sometimes you will have people taking pictures or videos, and those are embedded. So it's all done. The only thing you're doing is adding in some stats and a picture. But board members, particularly a board chair or the committee, they could do a thank you video. Right. I've also, and I've even seen like now, we talk about like what the galas were like 20 years ago. They were paper driven, right? No technology. Now you like. Galas aren't even doing tickets anymore. Everything is done digitally, right? And so they say, well, welcome to the gala and do this. But I have seen on the thank you side where you get a text almost immediately or the next day. Right. And there's sometimes even a call to action of, hey, if you missed the ability to make a gift or you'd like to make an additional gift, click this link. Right. Oh, yes. But I also think that for board members, the board could work with the staff to say, would you mind making 5 phone calls within about 4 days after the gala?
So that's not out of line. Like the staff could ask, like the development staff, the development team could have, before the gala, before it happens, then set the expectation or make the request, board members, I want you all to call, 5 of the people that raised their paddle at the event.
You could, or you could talk to the person who purchased the table.
Oh, okay.
oh my God, I hope you enjoyed the gala as much as we did.
Yes.
I saw you being recognized for your sponsorship. I am on the board, and I just want to let you know. The key is for the development team is they have to script it out. Right. To say, here are either the talking points or the script.
Yes.
Right. Some people are like, don't give me the script, just tell me what
Give me the talking points.
Yeah. So you want to just make sure you're kind of aware of that. So board members can do that.
Okay.
And really what you're trying to do is to kind of embed an attitude of generosity and gratitude.
Yeah.
Like, we are so grateful for you.
Yes.
Right. Because together, not individually, but together we can do X, Y. You always want to, and then you'd be surprised, Bobby, how people would kind of go, oh my God, I'm a funder. I work for whoever. I go to a 10 of these, and nobody's ever done that.
So this is like the secret sauce here.
So yeah, so being able, and by the way, it does take extra work. Right?
Yeah,
it does, because staff. There's a point where they're like, "Oh my God, I am just so tired."
Too much. Yeah, the burnout.
Right?
It happens.
But if
burnout
you plant it to say, all I have to do is, there's a template for the email.
Yep.
All I have to do is cut and copy this section.
So many ways to automate it now.
Off it goes, right?
Yeah.
But you could also, I know for newsletters, sometimes you have the board president or somebody who has a section in the newsletter or the annual report or the gratitude report or whatever. You could have board members, write thank you notes in that. They can do a video, they can do a picture from us to you. Thank you so much. So there's all sorts of creative ways.
Oh my gosh.
Right? So when people always ask me, what is fund development? Right? This is how I describe it.
Okay.
The first half is the science of it,
Okay.
whether it's CRMs, whether it's white papers, surveys, whether it's all of that, right?
Okay.
It's the technical part of all that.
The fact that you have a website with stuff and a donate button on the front page.
Yes. But it's all of the technical pieces in fundraising, plus the art of storytelling, right?
Yeah.
Videos, pictures, quotes, all of those things, right? So it's the science of fundraising plus the art of storytelling is fund development. And that's how I describe it.
I can see it. A plus B equals C.
And so when people kind of go, oh my God, it's so scary, it's so whatever, well, it can be. But this is why we have organizations like AFP.
Yes.
This is why, you now have certificates in fundraising. This is why you have, degrees in nonprofit.
And
right?
you are a CRFE?
I am a
CFRE?
I am a CFRE. It's funny you're talking about this. 2 weeks ago, I just recertified. You have to recertify every 3 years, and I just finished
Congratulations.
recertification. It was a little bit different because I did it from the perspective of a consultant instead of a full-time fundraiser.
Okay.
So that process looked a little different to me, but I called them, and they were wonderful people, and they walked me through it.
So CFRE is something that I've considered for quite a long time. I've been a member of AFP for 5, 7, 8, 10 years, something like that. And I see a lot of that out there. Now, for me as a event consultant or something like that, could that be good for me? Could that be something that I could look into and learn more about the world of fundraising?
Yes. You wouldn't have issues with the education because you go to a lot of conferences. It's broken out into education. You have to have education, and not just in fundraising, but there are a couple little things.
I'm all about learning anything.
Yeah. But there is one on performance. There's one on practice, and then those are the ones. But if you're considering it, you should think about talking to the people at CFRE directly.
Yes.
To say, because every situation is very unique, and your situation along with Aaron's is very unique, right?
Yeah.
To kind of go, and if you use that lens of being a consultant, right, you can kind of go, oh, here's what it is, and frankly, I literally was on the stage and I raised X.
Yep.
That's performance.
Yes.
Right? So where I think it could help you, Bobby and Aaron, is that when you're a CFRE, it tells you that not only do you know subject matter, but you have practical experience doing that, which is different than like a certificate. A certificate program basically says you've been exposed to a body of work or knowledge, where this
whether you're the sponge that absorbed it.
You here as a CFRE, you have to know what you're talking about, and you have to have been proven that you have the ability to raise money or do things related.
You're a practitioner in it.
Yeah.
Like that's your gig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would totally.
Okay. Okay.
I would say you have nothing to lose, right?
Okay.
I mean, everything to gain.
How long's the process? I guess like if I went on the internet tonight and said I want to be a CFRE, like I guess is it a training process? Is there classes? Is there tests? I mean, I know there's tests, but
Sure. So you go to CFRE.org, you create an online account that is yours, and you start the application. You can do some research there. They do recommend certain books if you want.
I love books.
Yeah. They also have CFRE refresher classes or just classes.
Okay.
They have study groups. You can get, for a fee, you can get sample questions.
Okay.
And you just start studying. And I forget, it's over like 5 subject matters. One is ethics, one is donor research, raising money. I forget them all now. But yeah, but what I like about that is then you can kind of go, okay, then this is what I need to know and understand as I move forward. Like I'm going to tackle this, and then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. So you fill out the application. Once the application is complete, and it's based on certain points in each of those sections, you submit, they review, see if they have any clarifications or, there are some people who don't, their applications get rejected for whatever reason. I have heard this. And then you sit for the exam.
Okay.
And then you have a window, typically of a quarter, like they'll say you have
3 months.
Yeah.
Take
and
then
then you go to a testing center. Although somebody recently told me you can do it from home now, which I think is interesting. And then when I took it, I found out right then and there.
It's like boom, click, yay, or boom, click, ugh.
But in the results, they will tell you based on all those little categories that I mentioned. It'll tell you how many you got right, how many you didn't, and the average against everybody else.
Okay.
So you can
kind of know.
Yeah. So if you don't pass, I didn't pass because of that or this. So I need to beef up my.
You have to strengthen that leg of the stool.
On volunteerism or ethics, right? And so donor prospecting, whatever that looks like. But yeah, and there's also some research probably about how CFREs command a certain dollar amount more than people who don't.
Yeah.
Because you are saying, I am the real deal.
Yep.
I went through this process.
Yep.
Here's what I am.
Yep.
So I really kind of recommend CFREs, particularly for people who want to stay in the industry.
Like this is our life. Like you've dedicated your life to helping nonprofits have a better situation. They can make a bigger impact.
Yes.
And that's what I've done. I've dedicated my life to help nonprofits have better events.
But what's interesting that I've seen at some of the conferences, how executive directors and CEOs are getting CFREs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. When I first saw that, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I thought, well, that makes sense too, right? I thought of it just as a fundraiser, but it could be anybody.
Yep.
And EDs and CEOs, trust me, they're raising money.
Oh my gosh, that's
Right?
like number 1 job. Number 2, keep the ship afloat too.
Yeah. So anyway,
yeah.
I am a big advocate for CFRE. I have been for a long time. I've been in CFRE almost 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so you've kind of planted a seed in me now.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about this for a while. So maybe we'll follow my CFRE journey to see where it takes us. And maybe in the next time we talk, we can celebrate and talk about something else. But I think that could be that's a very worthy journey for me to take.
I think it is. And I think when you talk about credibility, when you're talking to nonprofits, when you're going to conferences, signature line, bam. Yeah, it's there.
Yeah.
And people know that, right?
Yep.
Like I'm certified in nonprofit life cycle, so that's part of my, what do they call those monikers?
Yes.
So I'm like, I like that,
Yeah.
But being able, and I would say this, I was talking about this earlier today. I feel like I've done more continuing education since I've been a consultant than I did in the prior 7 to 10 years. And I did go to conferences.
Yeah, you were
But I
there,
have really say, hey, I need to beef up my own chops, right? And keep them relevant, right? And making sure that I'm staying on top of trends and doing trainings. And matter of fact, this November, I'm going to be at AFP, Association of Fundraising Professionals headquarters in Arlington, I think. and I'm going to do the AFP faculty training program.
Cool.
It's an intense 2-day, kind of teaches you to be a better trainer. And they ask you, like the only thing they ask you is like after you go through it, is if you could please make sure that you do some AFP trainings.
Yeah.
And I just did one for the
I love
chapter.
working with AVP and training them.
Yeah. So it's a really kind of cool thing. But one of the requirements is you really have to know fund development.
Yeah.
They said, we're not here to teach you that.
No.
We are teaching you how to pass on your expertise to other people.
Yeah. Yeah. Bring that down. Teach them how to fish.
Yeah.
You're not the fisherman. I'm here.
So, Bob, maybe I'll come back in a future podcast and tell you what it was like.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Let's do that.
That'd be kind of fun, right?
I think that would be fun.
It's going to be in early November.
Okay. So in early 24, we'll get back after the holidays. Okay. Well, cool. So, Jerry, this is Erin's question. If she was here, she would ask you. She would be like, so, Jerry, what's the latest book you're reading? Or have one to recommend?
The book that I would recommend is one we've already talked about, which is Nonprofit Life Cycles.
Okay.
It looks just like training tomorrow.
Now, if we only had a copy around here someplace, I wonder.
It looks just like.
Look like this. Look at that.
Get it on Amazon.
Okay.
It's a quick read.
Easy. Stage-based wisdom for nonprofit capacity. Susan Kenny Stevens, PhD.
Yes. It's a wonderful quick read.
Okay.
It will really make you think. It actually has
link in the show notes.
A guide in the middle to how, in addition, what I didn't say is in addition to those table legs and the tabletop could be at one of 7 stages from idea all the way to termination, like a bell curve.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So this allows you, it tells you like, here's what fund development looks like in growth or maturity or and then you can kind of go, where are we?
Bell curve.
Right. And then it helps you to kind of go, oh, we're in growth or we're in maturity.
Okay.
Like,
so you get to take that temperature.
So based on that, what's our plan moving forward? Right. Like if you're a startup, you're not ready to have a capital campaign. But if you're in growth or maturity, absolutely. So when you start using this book as a template, or I say the lens, it really provides some context to have really good conversations with donors and staff and board members.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, so to answer your question, Erin, sorry we missed you today.
We miss you. We love you.
I would use this as the read.
Okay, we're getting this book, and I like what you were talking about, the bell curve, from the idea to the termination. I was like, I bet I could develop a bell curve of events where different, because different events are in different events and organizations are in different stages of their event growth or kind of their event bell curve. And there's some where they're doing their event for the first time. That's idea. And then there's other times it's like, okay, I think we're going to sunset this event. We've had enough boots and bling events. Well, let's evolve this. Let's move it to something different.
To say it's not relevant anymore. Right. Or like, hey, we're going to get rid of the gala because guess what? Our walk
is crushing it.
Is killing it.
Yeah.
And the time and energy to do the gala is just not there. Right.
Yeah. And it's got to cost benefit.
And Bobby, even in the analysis, and I do this when I do analysis of fund development or for organizations, is like you look at the revenue sources on the budget. Like, and if your gala, and this is a lesson from COVID, if 50% of your revenue is coming from the gala,
you have something wrong.
Yeah, you have problems. Right.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So being able to look at it from even that lens. And this is, again, the beauty of talking to somebody else who isn't embedded in the organization.
That's right.
Say, I bring a different lens. I bring a different viewpoint. I can, and as consultants, I can even say things that other people want to say but don't.
Right. Because their job's on the line.
Yeah. Kind of go like, but they love this. They don't love the gala, and it's burning your staff out.
Right.
It's on decline. I can tell it's on decline because you're raising less money. You're getting less attendance.
Yep.
It's literally the same people.
I can read the tea leaves.
Yeah, and just say you're better off launching a major gifts program and transferring those people over to a major gifts program.
There you go.
Right.
And by having a professional with that kind of that lens to be able to look at all the cards, because a lot of times when you're in the game and you're like, oh, this is my hand, this is all I get to focus on. But when you kind of get to take that step back and you see what all the cards are, then you're like, okay, this is the play we want. I would suggest you to make.
And probably sometimes it validates what people were already thinking.
Yeah.
But they wanted that outside perspective.
Right.
Or maybe they kind of go, oh, having the consultant help us gives us the courage, or it gives us our case for support to go to the board, or to the funder, or whoever, or to say, you know what, this, or the other way, like the lunch is so great and it's so amazing that we're going to take it to a night event. Or the other way around.
There. Yeah.
Or, even talking about like, the Group S, the Benevon model, right?
Yep.
Right? Like, is it working, not working? Is like, and on the back end, how are you doing the donor segmentation?
Yes.
To kind of go low hanging fruit, doing the long game for a major gift, whatever that looks like.
Yep.
And this is why I always describe fund development as both wide and deep. Because it's just so much.
Oh my gosh,
there's so much stuff there.
Yeah,
right.
We have 10 more hours of podcast that we could spend on this. Maybe more.
But based on topics, yeah, for sure.
Oh
right.
My God. We start a series with Jerry.
No, I don't know about that. Although I'm happy, it's my first podcast.
You're doing a great job.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, we're almost at the hour. Can you believe that an hour has almost gone by?
Oh wow! I should wrap this up.
Well, so we're going to be continued on a future podcast, and we've got so many other things that we're going to talk about. But Jerry, thank you for just diving deep with me, because like the idea nuggets, like I have a ton of ideas from this, and I know that our viewers and our listeners are getting a lot of value from this as well too. So if they want to learn a little bit more about Jerry and they want to maybe have that discovery call with you, where can they find you?
Oh my gosh, Bobby, thank you for the plug. You can go to www. You have to put the W's in.
Yep.
For some odd reason. GeronimoConsulting.org. You can also look me up on LinkedIn.
Yes. Jerry's very active on LinkedIn.
Yes. And it's interesting, just 6 or 8 weeks ago, I started a Geronimo Consulting LinkedIn page.
Really?
Yeah.
You know what? You're right. You did, because I accepted it and I'm following that.
Yeah. I'm posting tomorrow about my recertification for CFRE.
Nice. Well, congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Well, in a few weeks, you'll have a link to this wonderful podcast that you'll get to share out there too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All the links are in the show notes, my friends. So, Jerry, any last inspiring words for all of our awesome friends that are out there?
Yes. Everybody's a philanthropist, right? I think people use that word and they're like, oh, they're millionaires. Everybody's a philanthropist. Whether you're helping your neighbor, you're helping your kids, you're helping the community, you are a philanthropist is somebody who tries to make society better. Right. So that's my definition of philanthropy. And so I think that as human beings and citizens of the globe, that we should all be committed to make society better. And I'll leave you with that.
Amen, brother.
Amen.
Oh, my gosh. So good. Well, Jerry Diaz with Geronimo Consulting, thank you so much for joining us. Again, my name is Bobby D with Heart of the Gala podcast. Go and do the likes and the thumbs up and the subscribes and the listens and the downloads and the comments and all of those. You know what to do. But yes, please go and do that. And keep being awesome. Aspire to inspire individuals to change the world.
Change the world.
All right. And you are awesome people. We love you all, and we'll see you on the next show. Bye, everyone.
Bobby. Bye, everybody.